The oceans of power, the rise and fall of the world's blue water navies. For centuries, mankind has measured power not only by the size of armies but by the ability to dominate oceans. Every empire that reshaped history, from Britain and Spain to United States, shared one defining characteristic: a navy capable of crossing entire oceans, sustaining itself for months, and projecting military force thousands of kilometers from home. This capability is known as a blue water navy. Today, only a handful of nations possesses it, and the race to join this exclusive club is reshaping geopolitics. The oceans carry over 80% of global trade by volume, transport, energy supplies, connect continents, and serve as the foundation of intercontinental commerce. Control over these sea lanes translates into economic security, political influence, and military dominance. Nations that can only defend their coastlines remain regional powers. Nations that can operate across the world's oceans become global powers. Today we will explore what truly defines a blue water navy, why maintaining one is among the most expensive military endeavors in history, which countries currently possess intercontinental naval capabilities, and how the competition for control of the world's ocean is becoming one of the defining strategic contests of the 21st century. What makes a blue water navy? The term blue water navy is often misunderstood. It is not simply a fleet with many ships or even aircraft carriers. A blue water navy possesses the ability to operate independently across the world's oceans for extended periods without relying on nearby home ports. That requires far more than warship. It demands an entire ecosystem of military logistics, technology, and global infrastructure. At the heart of every blue water navy lies a network of replenishment vessels capable of refueling ships at sea, allowing fleets to remain deployed for months instead of weeks. These are supported by nuclear or conventionally powered submarines, guided missiles, destroyers, frigates, amphibious assault ships, intelligence vessels, maritime patrol aircraft, satellites, and secure communication system. Overseas naval vessels, friendly ports, and diplomatic engagements become equally important, transforming distant harbors into strategic lifelines. The aircraft carriers represent the most recognizable symbol of blue water capability, but even they cannot operate alone. A carrier strike group functions as an integrated system. Destroyers provide air defenses, submarines hunt enemy submarines and surface ships. Logistic vessels replenish fuel and ammunition, while airborne early warning aircraft monitoring threats hundreds of kilometers away. Every deployment becomes a carefully coordinated exercise involving thousands of personnel spread across dozens of vessels. Building such a force is extraordinarily expensive. Developing advanced warships can take years, training experienced sailors can take decades, and maintaining overseas support networks requires continuous political and economic investment. This is why many countries possess modern navies capable of regional operations, yet only a select few can sustain military power across multiple oceans simultaneously. The difference between a regional fleet and a true blue water navy is not simply firepower, it is endurance, logistics, and the ability to remain operational anywhere on Earth. The United States, the gold standard of global naval power. No nation in modern history has matched the global reach of the United States Navy. Since the end of the Second World War, it has evolved into the world's only truly global naval force capable of launching sustained military operations in every major ocean simultaneously. While other countries can project power across regions or even continents, the United States is the only nation that routinely maintains permanent naval presence across the Atlantic, Pacific, Indian Ocean, as well as in the Mediterranean, Persian Gulf, Arctic, and beyond. At the center of this unmatched capability has 11 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, each functioning as a floating military airbase capable of carrying more than 60 aircraft. Unlike conventionally powered carriers, these vessels can remain at sea for decades without refueling their reactors. Limited primarily by food and maintenance requirements, each carrier sails with an entire strike group consisting of guided missile destroyers, cruisers, attack submarines, logistic ships, and thousands of sailors working together as a single combat formation. The scale extends far beyond carriers. The United States operates one of the world's largest fleets of nuclear-powered attack submarines, ballistic missile submarines carrying the sea-based leg of the nuclear triad, amphibious assault ships capable of deploying marine expeditionary units, and hundreds of advanced support vessels. Equally important is an extensive global logistics network that includes naval vessels and access agreements stretching from Japan and South Korea to Bahrain, Italy, Spain, Guam, Diego Garcia, and numerous allied airports. This infrastructure allows American naval forces to remain deployed almost indefinitely. This overwhelming maritime presence gives Washington extraordinary strategic flexibility. During humanitarian disasters, American carriers often arrive before international aid organizations. During regional conflicts, strike groups can launch air operations without relying on foreign airfields. During geopolitical crises, simply moving a carrier towards a contested region can alter diplomatic negotiations, even before a single weapon is fired. The United States Navy is therefore not merely a military organization, it is one of the primary instruments through which the United States maintains its positions as a global superpower, securing trade routes, deterring adversaries, reassuring alliances, and shaping the balance of power across the world's oceans, China, from coastal defense to global naval ambitions. For much of the 20th century, China's navy was designed primarily for coastal defense. Its mission was to protect the mainland and secure nearby waters and deter invasion. That strategy has changed dramatically over the past 3 decades. Today, the People's Liberation Army Navy, or PLAN, is undergoing one of the fastest naval expansions in modern history, transforming from a regional force into a fleet that increasingly global ambitions. China now possesses the world's largest navy by number of battle force ships, modern guided missile destroyers, stealth frigates, amphibious assault ships, advanced submarines, and rapidly expanding carrier strike groups have entered service at a pace unmatched by any other nation. Massive shipyards continue producing new warships every year, while investments in anti-ship missiles, naval aviation, and unmanned systems have significantly increased the fleet's combat capability. Aircraft carriers have become central to Beijing's long-term strategy, beginning with refurbished Liaoning, followed by the domestically built Shandong and the far more advanced Fujian. China has steadily moved towards operating carrier strike groups capable of sustained blue water deployments. At the same time, Beijing has expanded its overseas logistical reach, opening its overseas military support base in Djibouti and investing heavily in ports through the Belt and Road Initiative. While many of these commercial ports are not military bases, they can provide valuable logistical access for long-range naval operations. China's strategic objective extends beyond simply increasing fleet size. It seeks to protect critical maritime trade routes that carry imported energy, raw materials, and exports through South China Sea, Indian Ocean, and beyond. Chinese Naval Task Force now regularly conduct anti-piracy patrols near the Horn of Africa, sail through the Pacific into the Atlantic, and participate in multinational exercises thousands of kilometers from home waters. Although China still lacks the worldwide network of alliances and overseas bases that underpins American naval dominance, its trajectory is clear. The plan is evolving from a regional navy into a force capable of sustained intercontinental operations, making the competition between the United States and China one of the defining naval rivalries of the 21st century. Britain, France, and India, the second tier of global maritime defense. Although the United States and China dominate discussions of modern naval power, three other nations possess the ability to conduct sustained operations far from their shores: the United Kingdom, France, and India. Each has developed a blue water navy for different strategic reasons. Shaped by geography, history, and national interest, the Royal Navy traces its heritage to the greatest maritime empire in history. During the 19th century, Britain controlled vast stretches of the world's oceans, safeguarding trade routes that connected colonies across every continent. Today, while today's Royal Navy is much smaller than its imperial predecessors, it remains one of the world's most capable expeditionary forces. The two Queen Elizabeth class aircraft carriers serve as the centerpiece of the British naval strategy, supported by advanced Type 45 destroyers, Astute class nuclear powered attack submarines, and Vanguard class ballistic missiles submarines that provide the country's continuous nuclear deterrent. Combined with access to overseas facilities and close cooperation with NATO allies, Britain retains the ability to project power across the Atlantic, Mediterranean, Indo-Pacific, and beyond. France possesses one of the most balanced and self-sufficient navies outside the United States. Unlike Britain, France operates a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, the Charles de Gaulle, capable of extending deployments with fewer logistical constraints. French overseas territories in the Caribbean, Pacific Ocean, Indian Ocean, and the South America provide strategic footholds across multiple oceans, allowing the French Navy to maintain a truly global presence. Nuclear powered submarines, amphibious assault ships, advanced frigates, and maritime patrol aircraft enable France to conduct everything from combat operations to humanitarian missions and freedom of navigation patrols. India represents the newest major entrant into the Blue Water Club. Located at the center of the Indian Ocean, the country depends heavily on maritime trade and imported energy. Protecting these sea lanes has become a strategic necessity. The Indian Navy now operates two aircraft carriers, a growing fleet of guided missile destroyers and frigates, nuclear-powered submarines, and long-range maritime patrol aircraft. Investment in indigenous shipbuilding, island infrastructure, and strategic partnership with countries such as the United States, Japan, Australia, and France are steadily expanding India's operational reach. As China's naval presence grows in the Indian Ocean, India's transition from a regional maritime force to a true blue water navy has become one of the most significant developments in Asian geopolitics. Russia, Japan, and the Middle Powers. Powerful fleets with different missions. Not every major navy follows the same path towards global influence. Russia, Japan, Italy, Spain, Australia, South Korea, and Canada, as well as the Netherlands, all operate highly capable fleets, but their mission, strengths, and strategic priorities differ significantly. While some focus on nuclear deterrence, others emphasize regional security, alliance operations, or protecting vital trading routes. Russia inherited the vast Soviet Navy after the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. During the Cold War, the Soviet fleet challenged the United States across the Atlantic, Pacific, Arctic, and the Mediterranean. Economic decline after the Soviet breakup, however, led to decades of underinvestment, shrinking much of Russia's surface fleet. Today, the Russian Navy remains a formidable force, primarily capable of its nuclear-powered submarines. Its ballistic missile submarines form a critical component of Russia's nuclear deterrent. While its attack submarines continue to operate in the Arctic, North Atlantic, and Pacific, the surface fleet, although still capable, faces aging platforms, maintenance challenges, and a more limited ability to sustain global deployments than during the Soviet era. Japan operates one of the world's most technologically advanced navies despite constitutional limits on offensive military operations. The Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force fields sophisticated Aegis-equipped destroyers, exceptionally quiet diesel-electric submarines, advanced anti-submarine warfare capabilities, and large helicopter destroyers that are being modified to operate F-35B stealth fighters. Although Japan's primary missions remains the defense of its surrounding waters and sea lanes, its navy regularly participates in multinational exercises and increasingly contributes to Indo-Pacific security alongside allies. Other middle powers have developed specialized blue water capabilities that make them indispensable partners in coalition operations. Italy and Spain maintain aircraft carriers or amphibious assault ships capable of deploying fixed-wing aircraft. Australia has expanded its naval forces to address growing competition across the Indo-Pacific. South Korea has transformed from a coastal defense force into a navy capable of extending regional deployments, while Canada and the Netherlands contribute advanced frigates, submarines, logistical vessels, and specialized capabilities to NATO and multi national maritime missions. These navies may not possess the worldwide logistical networks of the United States or the rapidly expanding industrial capacity of China, but together they may form a critical layer of global maritime security. Through alliances, joint exercise and intelligence sharing, and combined naval task forces, they multiple the effectiveness of collective defense and help maintain stability across the world's busiest sea lanes. The future of naval power: who will rule the ocean? The next era of naval competition will not be decided solely by who builds the most ships. Numbers matter, but they are only one component of maritime power. Industrial capacity, technological innovation, logistics, alliances, and economic strength will ultimately determine which nations can sustain global naval dominance over decades rather than years. Artificial intelligence, autonomous surface vessels, and unmanned submarines, as well as hypersonic missiles, cyber warfare, and space based surveillance, are already changing naval strategy. Future fleets will rely on networks of unmanned and manned platforms operating together, allowing commanders to deter threats earlier and strike targets further away. At the same time, increasingly accurate long range missiles are forcing navies to reconsider the role of large surface ships, particularly aircraft carriers, which remain powerful but also represent high value targets in modern warfare. The Indo-Pacific has emerged as the center of this competition. Nearly two-thirds of global maritime trade passes through these waters, including some of the world's most important energy routes and commercial shipping lanes. The South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait, the East China Sea and the Indian Ocean have become strategic flashpoints where naval deployments, military exercises, and the freedom of navigation operations occur with growing frequency. As China expands its fleet and the United States strengthens partnership with countries such as Japan, Australia, India, and the Philippines, the balance of power at sea is becoming increasingly contested. History offers a consistent lesson. Every global power, from Portugal and Spain to Britain and the United States, maintained maritime superiority during its period of greatest influence. Sea power has never been simply about controlling water. It has been about controlling trade, protecting supply chains, projecting military force, and reshaping the international order. The nations that master these capabilities influences events far beyond their own borders, while those that cannot secure their maritime interests often find their economic and strategic options constrained. The race for blue water supremacy is therefore more than a contest between navies. It is a competition over who will shape the rules of international commerce, guarantee the security of global trade, and determine the balance of power across the world's oceans for decades to come. Conclusion: throughout history, the rise of every global superpower has been written on the oceans, from the Portuguese caravels and the opened new trading routes to the British Royal Navy that secured an empire on which the sun never sets, and finally to the United States Navy that has dominated the seas since the end of the Second World War. Maritime supremacy has repeatedly determined which nation shapes world affairs. Today, the story is entering a new chapter. The United States remains the only navy capable of maintaining continuous military operations across every major ocean. But China's unprecedented naval expansion is narrowing the gap in key regions. Britain and France continue to preserve global expeditionary capabilities. India is steadily emerging as the dominant maritime power of the Indian Ocean, and other technologically advanced navies strengthen collective security through alliances and multinational operations. Yet, possessing a blue water navy is not simply a matter of prestige. It represents decades of industrial investment, economic resilience, technological innovation, diplomatic partnership, and logistical expertise. Building warships are difficult. Sustaining fleet across oceans for months at a time is even harder. That is why only a handful of countries have achieved true intercontinental naval power capability, despite hundreds of nations maintaining armed forces. As geopolitical competition intensifies and global trade remains dependent on secure sea lanes, and the world's oceans will continue to serve as the ultimate arena of strategic rivalry, the question is no longer whether naval power will matter. It already has, and it always has. The real question is whether the 21st century will remain an American century at sea, evolve into a bipolar maritime competition between Washington and Beijing, or witness the emerge of an entirely new balance of naval power. The answer to that question will influence global security, international trade, and the future of world politics for generations to come.